Now I would like to present a prayer from Métis Knowledge Keeper Daryl Hawman. Phil, is there a video of that?
Yep, there is. Just waiting. Just Nina has to just make me or allow us to share screen. There we go. It's coming up right now.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Daryl Hawman. I'm the president of the New Southern Plains Métis Local 160, and I've been asked to say a prayer today to give homage to our storytellers of many types. I personally I don't consider myself a storyteller, but more of an amateur historian from a Métis point of view. So with that, I'll just go into a prayer. Lord Creator, help us today to bless all of those folks that are passing on our oral tradition today, and have a wonderful day. Thank you very much. Amen.
Thank you so much to Métis Knowledge Keeper Daryl Hawman for that prayer. At this time, I would like to acknowledge our sponsors, all of whom can be viewed on the event website and who are pulled together by one organization, Library Services for Saskatchewan Aboriginal Peoples, or LSAP, makes Indigenous storytelling possible each February. Dating from 2004, the Saskatchewan Aboriginal Storytelling Project, the SAS project, is an annual event which celebrates the lives, histories, practices, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and non-status peoples by bringing traditional Indigenous storytelling into libraries. Saskpolytechinic Library has been celebrating Saskatchewan Indigenous storytelling for a decade, and we strive to create events that reflect the goals of the SAS project, which are, number one, to create stronger relationships between Indigenous peoples and libraries, and number two, to decolonize library spaces, whether in person or online as we are today. Now I would like to introduce Marlene Dormuth from our Moose Jaw campus's Indigenous Student Center, who will bring greetings from her department.
Tansei, I'm Marlene Dormuth, the Indigenous Student Center Coordinator for the Pihitugwe Keheyu Witchison Student Center at the Moose Jaw campus. Thank you, Knowledge Keeper Daryl Hawman, for your opening prayer. The importance of oral storytelling is the key that holds on to our traditions, values that are passed on to generations. The stories and the history that is shared imprints the connection to the earth through the experienced and trusted mushums, cookums, elders, and knowledge keepers. In the modern age where everything is digital, Zoom, YouTube, Facebook, and podcasts, we are grateful to have storytellers with one-on-one stories and historian teachings. Today, Saskatchewan Polytechnic shares the vision of Mayo Wikuduin, good relations, and the commitment to creating a community where students and staff are working alongside each other and creating a community of respect, integrity, sustainability, and excellence. Mayo Wikuduin demonstrated today with the library services, Indigenous strategies, AV services, and our great sponsors, Cameco, Community Initiative Fund, Government of Saskatchewan, Library Services for Saskatchewan Aboriginal Peoples, Saskatchewan Culture, Saskatchewan Lotteries, SaskPower, and SaskTel for Indigenous Storytelling Month. Without further ado, please welcome Michael Gillespie, Associate Vice President of Learning and Teaching here at Saskatchewan Polytechnic. Merci and thank you.
Thank you very much, Marlene. Good morning to everybody. I'm Mike Gillespie. the Associate Vice President for Learning and Teaching here at Saskatchewan Polytechnic. And it's my pleasure to introduce Dickie Uzachipi today. As many Indigenous people are today, Dickie comes from a culturally diverse heritage. His heritage represents the majority of the Plains cultures found in Saskatchewan to this day: Ojibwe, Cree, Métis, and Dakota. Dickie is unique in that he was raised by his great-grandparents who never went to residential school. They raised him pre-reservation style, and until it was his turn to go to residential school. Dickie is a residential school survivor and a multi-generational trauma survivor. He's a master storyteller, an experienced speaker who can provide his own ancestral context and historical connections in ways that bring the truth and reconciliation recommendations to a practical reality. His workshops are led with great care to his family's stories and to where workshop participants are at in the truth and reconciliation process. It's about creating understanding with care to lay the groundwork for what needs to be done to heal. Dickie's experienced in leading workshops, speaking to groups of all sizes, and keynote addresses. Dickie's also a traditional powwow dancer and singer, an artist, a storyteller, a Red Seal chef, and the owner of Sous Chef Catering. Please join me in welcoming Dickie to today's Indigenous storytelling event.
Morning, everybody. Hearing me? Yes, good to go. All right. I'm Dickie Uzachipi. I was asked to come tell some stories, so that's what I'm going to be doing. I have an hour and a half long story that I'm going to put into about an hour. So pay attention. I'm trying not to speak too fast, but that's how it goes. Now, little background on me. Way back when I was first born, there was two of us, myself and a twin. My twin passed away. In fact, we were both stillborn when we came out. I came back to life about 15 minutes after the fact. And that actually made one of my great-grandfather's prophecies come true, because he had a dream way back in the day when he was raising my mom that she would have a set of twins that were stillborn. One would come back to life, and that boy would be the one that he would take and raise and instill all his teachings into. So yay for me. Because of residential school, I am who I am today, and that's why we still have all our culture in our family, because of that. My great-grandparents, Alec and Maggie Nookshish from Okanese First Nation, they had 14 children, and all of their children were taken away and shipped off to Labret Indian Residential School, where they lost their language, lost their culture, lost their ability of speaking their languages, and the wanting to speaking of their language. So when they came home from school, went back to their parents, they refused to speak to their parents in their traditional Neheo language, or Soto, none of the languages. They only spoke in English and a little bit of French. So right there, the hoop of our circle was broken, and the family circle was broken on my grandfather's side. And from there on, he held on to his traditions, and he waited and waited and waited and prayed over it. And then, like I said, after he was raising his oldest son's daughter, because of something that happened to her, I'll tell the story later on. But basically, he was raising his granddaughter. And when she was about 3-4 years old, he had that dream. And then when she hit the right age, she too went to residential school. Second generation of his family taken from him and put in Labret residential school. Now, later in life, my mom and my dad had a bunch of kids. I was number 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth born, came out and fulfilled my grandfather's prophecy. They held on to me for 2.5 years until I was somewhat potty trained before I moved in with my great grandparents. And when I moved in with them, they were already in their early 80s when I moved in with them. And I lived with them for about 12 years. So in those 12 years of learning with them, I absorbed the entire culture, all the stories that go with it, and then all the teachings that go with all their ceremonials. That's why I was given up to my great grandparents. Now, a lot of you people out there know who I am, and you're seeing this big long beard. Well, this is my COVID beard. I started growing it when COVID happened. And then I was asked by some friends, can you play Santa Claus? So I said, okay. So I kept it. So I started being Santa Claus on the side. So right now I'm contemplating if it's coming off or staying on. So we'll just go with that. So now it's time to get into the storytelling. Now I'm going to tell you the Cree creation story according to my family, from Okanese, the Nookshish family. This is the story that has been passed on from generation down. And my great grandparents, when I moved in with them, I asked them, you know, what kind of Indian they were, and they kind of laughed at me. They said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, what kind of Indian are you? You know, are you one of the wild Indians?" My mushroom laughed and shook his head. "Yes," he said, "I am the last of the wild Indians." Now, later in life, when I was about 10 years old, my grandfather explained what he meant by last of the wild Indians. You see, when he was born, there was no reserves. They were still living on the open prairie when he was born. My grandmother was born on the open prairie, still not a reserve. So those are the people that raised me. And they taught me and raised me in the same way that they raised their children before they went to school. So to understand the culture and everything else, this is why I was raised with them, so that these stories would never go away. They'd always be around. So this is how it starts. Now, in the room you're sitting in, look around the room. It's a big room, like the galaxy. There's millions of stars all around you. We have stories about beings from way over there, way over there, way over there, and some from the ones way back there. The ones from way back there, they're mean and ugly, and all they want to do is war. See, they only came once, and we chased them away. Now, we have stories about all that. I'm not going to get into that today with those stories. But we have stories about those beings. You see, us as Naheo people, we understand the fact there are other beings from outside of our world, other nations on this little rock that we live on can't fathom the idea that there's life far, far away. But we understand that because they came and visited us. They shared stories with us. So after the entire galaxy was created, there was one more planet that was being made. And the creator got tired. And he made that one little ball of water. Put all kinds of wild fish and sea life and birds in there, but no land. And he was tired. So he reached behind them in the stars, in the dark matter. Like Play-Doh, he formed a head, arms, shoulders, and legs, and he blew life into him. And that little guy came alive, taking his little legs and his arms. And he held on to him, and he whispered in his ear all the jobs he had to do. And to the Cree people, this guy's name is Wasakichuk. To the Ojibwe people, he's known as Nanabush. And to the Dakotas, he's known as Inkatomi. Made the same way from star matter, blew life into him. Earth is spinning right here. He took Wasakichuk and he dropped him. Wasakichuk starts falling. Ah! Ah! I understand he's falling. So the creator ticked him with his finger and he flew right towards Earth. Now he's a spirit being. He doesn't have to walk on land or swim. He could just float in the air. He's a spirit being. But he went right into the atmosphere. He saw the clouds. He saw the water. And he's a joker. So he took a deep breath, put his hands together, and dove into the water. For 4 days, he was messing around, not listening to the creator, not doing what he was supposed to do because he was just having fun. The creator got mad at him, walked up to the earth, and he yelled at him, "Hey, Wasakichuk, what are you doing? You have a job to do. Do it." On Earth, where he was floating on the water, everything shook, and he heard the creator yelling at him. And all those teachings and things that the creator whispered in his ear, oh, he realized, I have a job to do. So he stood up on the water, right there where he's standing, reached into his bag and pulled out some tobacco. And where he stood there, he sprinkled it, turning in a complete circle. He sang a song. He yelled out a prayer, and he waited. When he looked down at the water, underneath his feet, big shadows of big fish were swimming away from where he stood. And he was looking down at that. And underneath his feet, he saw something dark coming up, and just pushed his feet out of the water, just big enough for him to stand on it. And he yelled up at the creator and said, I made land. And the creator instantaneously heard a big voice, not big enough. Oi, the Sakachuk put his head down, thinking, oh, how am I going to make this bigger? So he again looked into his bag and pulled out his drum. He pulled out a drum, grabbed a drumstick. He starts singing. hey, hi, oh, hey. But nothing happened. And he stood there and the sun was in the sky, further, going further, going further. Now, the Sakachuk was getting kind of mad at himself. And in his frustration, he stomped one foot. When he stomped his foot, that land got a little bigger. So he stomped his other foot, got a little bit bigger. An idea popped in his head. Okay. So he starts singing. And as he starts singing, he also started dancing. And as he danced, the earth got bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, this is where our tie-in with our traditional ceremonies come into play. For those 4 days and 4 nights, Wasakachuk danced nonstop. All over, he danced and he sang. And for 4 days, he kept dancing, and that land just got bigger and bigger and bigger. On the 4th day, around 12 noon, he slowed down and he came to, like he came out of that trance. But he was very, very tired. He started looking around. He said, oh, I made good land. But the tiredness kicked in and he started swaying back and forth, and he fell over. And where he laid there, he fell asleep. And during his dream, all these animals came up and started visiting with him. All kinds of animals, from all the bugs, small and large, to all the animals, large, small. Even those lizards, little tiny lizards, to the big, big, big giant lizards, all came to see him. And he remembered all these animals in his dream. But the last animal that came to him, was kind of a cheeky animal. It was a giant wolf, walked right up to him. He sniffed Wasakachuk's toes and up his middle, his privates, his chest, his arms, his neck. He could smell the stink breath from that big dog. And he was just growling at him. Got up and that dog walked away. And in his dream, Wasakachuk said, oh, good, 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 good. He said, he left me alone. But then that dog stopped, turned around, looked right at Wasakachuk and walked right up to him. Really creeped up on him. And all of a sudden, he lifted his back leg and he was about to let it go. And Wasakachuk woke up, feeling his face. Oh, good, good, good. He said, he didn't pee on me. Oh, that's right on. He said, a little bit of humor thrown in there. But he remembered all those animals. Now, when Wasakachuk woke up, he looked around. All he could see was land, mountains, all kinds of stuff. He didn't see no grass, no nothing. It was just bare land. You could see a little bit of lake here and a river there. But he turned around, looked in a circle. He could not see the water. Remember, it's a water planet. So outside that land was surrounded by water. So this drum right here represents that first land that was made, called Turtle Island. So in here, where Wasakachuk woke up, there's a trail here that he walks. And he only walks one trail. And all the stories about Wasakachuk, when they say he's walking on his trail, that's that trail he is walking on. So he got up and he started walking. Walked around the lake, kept walking, thinking all the jobs he had to do. He looked in his bag and found a whole bunch of seeds in his bag. And he called all the birds. He called them all to him. Take these, he said, spread them out all over. Go, he said. So all these birds flew off. And where the seeds landed, trees grew, grass grew, everything just popped out of the ground like magic. Remember, Wasakachuk's made out of magic, so that's what he did. So he did all that. Now on his land, that first land, he came across a big mud hole, a big mud pit. Oh, like a little kid, he took off his moccasins and walked right in there and felt the mud between his toes and mixing with his hands. And in the mud, he started making all those animals that he dreamt about. Large ones, small ones, he made them in pairs. A male and a female, blew life into him and let him go. All the animals, big, large lizards, all of them, blew life into him, let him go. He was remembering the creator told him, remember, he said, after you make all the animals, you have to weed them out. He said, teach the ones how to get along. If they don't fit, get rid of them. If they're not right, change them. So that was his job. So one morning he woke up and Sakachuk, he was, walking around and went for a morning walk, and he could hear in the distance someone screaming for help. Help me, Wasakachuk, help me, help me, help me. He heard him. Forget it. Kept walking. If it's important, I'll call back. Again, the same call. He kept walking. And the third call, really stout, really in dire straits, scream. Well, I better help. He said. So he ran towards that noise, through a river, around a valley, into a little bush area, came out of the bush, and that's where he stopped and he saw it. And he saw that. He saw Bunny getting roughed up by Weasel. You see, Weasel looked a little different back then. Weasel was a big giant animal, like the size of a German Shepherd, big animal. And he was holding on to Bunny. Now, Bunny back then looked different. Bunny looked like a giant rat. He had a little small mouse body, long rat tail. Weasel had him by the tail and he was hitting him against a tree. See, Weasel liked eating tender meat, so he was just tendering up Bunny. Every time he hit him, Bunny would cry out for help. But at that one point where he hit Bunny against a tree, he looked past and he saw with Socketchuck standing and looking at him through beside a tree. So the two of them, and just at that, he grabbed Bunny, looked at the Socketchuck, laughed, and he bit into that tail. When he bit that tail, he broke that tail, and Bunny screamed out because it hurt. Well, Socketchuck got mad and came running right towards him. And that two of them start fighting. Then he pried his mouth and took Bunny out, and Socketchuck put Bunny in a tree. Him and that Weasel were rolling around on the ground. But Socketchuck, with his magic and his strength, took that big animal and squished him right down to the palm of his hand. And then Weasel's just a little small animal now. Little white Weasel, little black tail. We call them ermines. They're pretty mean and wicked because if you ever see one, they still think they're a big animal. And they got sharp teeth, so if you ever see them, just leave them alone. Well, Socketchuck told him, from now on, he said, Weasel, he said, you're never going to eat bunnies again. And you can keep your bad attitude, but you're not eating bunnies. And he took him and threw him over his shoulder and he flew into the deep bush. And that's where you find weasels, way in the deep bush. So now he took Bunny out of the tree. Look at Bunny. Bunny's all snotty and crying. He had a bloody tail. And oh, he bathed him like a kitten. Oh, I kissed him. Oh, my buddies, I'll help you. Just like that, a family of mice was walking by. Now, traditionally, and in the wild, if you don't notice, when Mama Mouse walks, she walks with all her babies. Mama walks first with a long tail, and all the babies grab her tail. And then they grab each other's tail, all like a train. They walk through the bush. So, family of mice was walking by, and Socketchuck told Bunny, hey, Bunny, you see the mice? He was still looking, hey, Bunny, huh? Another, hey, Bunny, he yelled at him. Oh, what? Oh, you can't hear. You got two little tiny ears. Can you see those mice? And he was trying to look. No. Hey, I gotta fix you. I gotta change you. Remember, you look like a giant rat, little small eyes, little whiskers, little tiny ears, big fat body, and long rat tail. That was broken. So he used his mouth and he sucked on his eyes, made them bigger. He pulled out his whiskers. Now he got long whiskers. And those ears, he grabbed one ear and he stretched it right out. He set the other, he stretched that one out. Now he's got big ears. So, hey, Bunny, hey. Oh, hey, Bunny, hi. Can you hear the mice? So he's using his ears. Yeah, over there. Can you see him? You look at one eye. Yeah, over there. Oh, that's good. He's got them short little legs. So he took him and he put him on the ground. As soon as he put him on the ground with little short legs and those long, big ears, he leaned this way and he started falling this way. Hey, instead of leaning, oh, he leaned the other way. The Socketchuck laughed at him and picked him up. Oh, you're never going to do it with those short little legs. He stretched the first two legs out, turned him over and stretched out his back legs, fluffed up all the muscles, got them all nice and strong, turned them around. And he's got those long whiskers, nice big eyes, two ears, nice strong body, strong legs. But he had that wrong broken rat tail there. Put him down and oh, Bunny's bouncing really strong back and forth. Something scared him. He jumped into the trees. When he jumped into the trees, that long rat tail got hung up on a branch and he started hanging there by his tail. And then he started crying. Socketchuck, help me. And Socketchuck walked up to Bunny and looked at him. Oh, yeah, big baby. Picked him out of the tree. Looked at him. Oh, yeah, do with that tail. He got him, stuck him under his arm. Had that long broken rat tail just hanging there. So he grabbed it and bit the rest off. Yeah, don't need that. He threw it away. And then he cleaned off that tail. And then Bunny was sitting there wagging his tail. He's just wagging his tail, holding it. And when Sucker started laughing at that tail, oh, it's so funny. He didn't know why, but it was funny. It was a funny looking little tail just wagging. Oh, I got to change it. Everybody's going to laugh at you over that. So how am I going to change it? So he grabbed it in his hands. He looked at it and he blew into it. Blew into it again. And on the fourth blow, it popped like popcorn, turning what Bunny used to look like into what Bunny looks like today. Now, I'll show you Bunny. Whiskers, strong ears, big eyes, nice strong body, and a fuzzy tail. Now, Bunny is not here. I'm making you see him because I'm using my hands. I'm taking you on that journey. I'm making you see what I want you to see. That's the difference between a storyteller and someone telling a story. You don't see me sitting here opening a book and reading you, Legend of Nanabush, or whatever. I'm not doing that. I'm telling you a story. It's a different thing if I'm actually in the room with you. You get all of it, but you're using this little box here. So I'm trying to show you as much as I can through this new way of telling stories now. But that's how he changed one animal. Now there's another animal there's two animals now I'll tell stories for. These two animals I'm going to tell you came from my mushroom with these stories down, 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 down. And I first remember hearing these stories when I was 3-4 years old. And I thought my mushroom was making lies up when he told these stories to me. But then when I went to school, I proved them right. So this is the stories about these two animals. Now, Wasakachuk loved, Wasakachuk's favorite meal in the whole world when he was here was duck eggs. And there's only one time of year that he can get, is springtime at the big slough. So, of course, the story takes place at the big slough. So he was crawling around on the edge of the shore, seeing mama duck's nests. And he was putting his hands in the nest, counting eggs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He took 2 eggs and ate them. Let's go from nest to nest, and he was just cracking fresh duck eggs. In the water, there was an animal watching him, and that was beaver. Beavers really love baby ducks. No, out in the wild, if you see them, this is true. If a little duck gets away from the mom, a beaver will actually swim underneath, lift up the little baby duck, and give him a ride back to his mom. Kind of a babysitter of the pond. Keeps all chaos in line. That's their job. So, back to the story. Beaver was watching Wasakachuk. Now, Beaver thought Wasakachuk was eating all the eggs, so there was going to be no baby ducks, and that just got Beaver really angry. So he came swimming slowly at first and picked up speed and glided straight to the edge of the water. On the other side on the land, Wasakachuk had his back to Beaver, and Beaver jumped out there and grabbed his ankle and bit right into his ankle, right in there, just bit hard, causing Wasakachuk to yell, "Hey!" At that point, Wasakachuk just cracked an egg when he got bit, so he moved and the egg hit him in the chin and went all over his chest and all the way down his front, covered in egg and yolk and all that. And that yell that he yelled out woke up all those mama ducks from their sleep. And they all stood up. No, mama ducks first get up, they stand up, they look down, and they count their eggs. And they all counted their eggs, and they all realized they had eggs missing. Now they're really angry now, stomping their feet, getting their wings on. They're all on a tether, and they turned and they looked and they saw Wasakachuk with yolk all over his chest. So now they all flew over there and ran over there, all really giving them heck. Back then, animals could talk to each other, just like us. We can talk to each other. Those animals were talking to each other. They were using all kinds of 4-letter words to Wasakachuk. Those mama ducks were not happy. Oh, they're really giving it to him. So he was, kind of getting mad, but oh well, that was Wasakachuk. He was mad because he's hurting. He had that beaver biting his leg and all these mama ducks yelling at him. So he picked Beaver off his leg and slapped him, pried him off, held onto him. He threw him in the mud. Grabbed one mama duck, the one that was really swearing at him. He grabbed her beak and took off her beak and her feet, threw her in the water. Grabbed another mama duck, took her feet, threw her in the water. And then he yelled at all the other mama ducks and basically threatened them all. And they all just stopped. And he picked up Beaver. He broke Beaver's feet off. You don't need those. He got those duck feet and he put them on Beaver. And then took that bill. He said, "For biting me, you're not going to bite me ever again." He took that duck bill and put it on his mouth, smacked him on the head, and threw him in the water, creating an animal. That mushroom called that animal half duck, half beaver. No name to it. That's what he called it. There's a different variation of that story that my mushroom told me. That's the kids' version. The adult version is, well, they grabbed the beaver, they grabbed the duck, and he stuck them together. That's the other version. So that was one of the stories. Now this other one is about kind of bullying stories, that kind of stuff. My mushroom told me this story. Like I said, I thought my mushroom was lying to me all the time, but in time, I found out what they were. So Wasakachuk was going for a walk, and this little, I guess, jackrabbit came bouncing up to him. His name was Jack. That's what my mushroom called him that. So back and forth. He was talking with this little animal, and this little bunny told him that there was a moose that was really mean to him. You know, back then moose looked a little different. Moose was a very proud giant deer, like an elk. Yeah, big horns on him, strong. If there was an animal that was too proud, that was that moose. He'd sit there and smile, and if he walked in the sunlight, he would sparkle. You know, that kind of proud kind of thing. But he was mean. He hated that one bunny. He did everything to that bunny. Kicked dirt at him, kicked poo at him, anything. He threw him with his horns. That's the kind of mean animal he was. And poor little jackrabbit, he had enough of it. He asked the Saskatchewan for help. Either help me, he said, or I'm gonna go jump off the cliff. You know, that kind of mean way of thinking. But Saskatchewan liked that little bunny, so he helped him. Okay, tomorrow, he said, I'm gonna follow you around. I'm gonna see firsthand what this moose does to you. So all day, Saskatchewan was following this little bunny all over. Sure enough, moose came in and kicked him. Oh, really made the Saskatchewan mad. So he called him. They went to the deep bush. There's 2 stumps there. First jackrabbit was sitting there, and the Saskatchewan sat there, and they talked back and forth. And the Saskatchewan told him, he said, I can help you. Yes, I can help you. He said, but, you know, if I change you, you can never be changed back. I want you to understand that. Bunny said, I'll do anything. Yeah, anything. Okay. Stand in front of me. So jackrabbit stood right in front of a Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan took his feet and stepped on Bunny's front feet. And he grabbed his shoulders and stretched them out. Nice and tall. Fluffed out his chest, made his legs nice and strong. And he made him stand up, but he was too wobbly, he was too tall, and he fell over. Kept falling this way, he'd fall out. He picked him up and sat him on that stump again. And he was thinking, I'm gonna help you. He was thinking and thinking, and wind came by, smelled some soup. You know, he looked. Back then, animals made their own meals, same as us. They used to cook on fire and all kinds of stuff. He looked over, found the muskrats over there cooking their meal. Mama muskrat was out there, and she had a tripod. There she had her pot of soup, and she was cooking. He looked at that. Oh, 3 legs. 3 legs. Oh. Looked at Jack. Oh, he got long 2 legs. Oh, I wonder if this will work. He said, so around other, his little fuzzy tail is there, and he rubbed his tail, made a nice strong, and he stretched it out all the way up. Now he put Jack down. Jack was leaning on his tail back and forth. He still had little short front legs. He was sitting there like that. Kind of looked like a funny looking dinosaur, you know, leaning back and forth. Oh, I gotta help you, he said. So he grabbed him, pulled his shoulder up, made his long arms bigger, stronger, gave him almost human-like claws. But he had sharp nails on him. His head was still tiny, bunny head, so he stretched his head out. You know, bigger ears, big strong jaw, gave him some sharp teeth in case he wanted to bite people. And then the 2 of them, he was teaching him how to fight, how to roll around, how to wrestle, how to show and use his strong body. And all of a sudden, Jack got real mad, and he hit Saskatchewan right in the mouth. Oh, Saskatchewan looked at him and said, what'd you do that for? He said, well, I just felt like it. He said, it felt good. Oh, Saskatchewan told him, don't ever do that to me again. He said, well, go ahead, you can do that. He said, but not to me. All right, he said, tomorrow morning, he said, you're ready, I'll let you go. You go find that moose. So before the sun came up, Saskatchewan got up and ran towards where Moose was, and he hid behind a tree to watch and wait. So he's waiting and waiting and waiting. And sure enough, there it was. Moose was standing there with all the other animals, deers, and all sitting there. In the distance, they could see something bouncing towards them. All the other animals are, what the heck is that? Hey, Moose, what's that? Well, I don't know. And one jokingly said, that's that rabbit you keep beating on. I bet you he changed. He said, good luck, he said, and he ran away, leaving Moose by himself. Just like that, he stood there and watched him. Jack bounced closer and closer, and when he got close enough, he hit Moose. He hit Moose so hard that his strong jaw, his lips came off, and they fell down. It has this big, long, drawn-out lip that hangs there. Tongue is hanging out. Jack hit him again. Oh! And then he grabbed his horns, and all his angers, he squeezed all those horns down with his front paws. Just squeezed them and pushed them into his head, turning Moose's horns that looked like hands If you ever see a moose out there, it looks like he has giant hands at the ends of his horns. Well, that was that jackrabbit that did that to him, changed him. So he started really giving it to him. Masakachak broke up the fight and chased Jack away. He told Moose, "Hey, Moose," he said, "for being such a mean guy," he said, "your job now," he said, "is to be food and food only." And that's where he left it. And that's the end of that story. Now, when I had to go to school, I didn't go to residential school right off the bat. I actually went to a school in Melville. And where I went to school there, it was a Catholic school. And there was 26 of us in our class. And the teacher would have library every second day. Library, we all go to library. But the thing is, she had this big bag of tiles, Scrabble tiles of the alphabet. So as we walked to the door, we had to pick out what letter we were looking for. So I pulled out the letter P one day. And we went to the library and we had all these things called encyclopedias. That was before internet. So that was our Google per se. So I was flipping through the P edition of that book all the way through, and that's where I found that animal. They call it the platypus, half duck, half beaver. And it was in Australia. And a couple of days later, I got the letter K, and I found that giant jackrabbit, a kangaroo. Boxes, and he's mean, and he's strong, and he fights. I saw that animal too. You see, those are two animals that my grandfather had a historical story about through our lineage way back. He never had a name of those animals, but he had a story of these animals. Now if there was a thing, why? But then the continuation of the story will then answer those questions. So after all the animals were getting along, he had no problems. So this one morning he went for a walk and something was growling behind him. And he's like, "Oh, what the heck?" He turned around. It's one of those giant lizards was growling at him. He told him, "Knock it off." He kept walking. Now it snapped his jaws at him. Oh, he turned around. He told, "Don't ever do that." He said, "Don't do that again." He turned his back and the sucker kept walking. That big lizard nipped him right on the butt. Oh, really made him mad. He grabbed him by the bottom lip and he dragged him. He dragged that giant lizard to a mud hole and he pushed it down in the ground and stomped on it. So for the next 4 days, he ran around gathering all those giant lizards and pushed them in mud holes. Got rid of them. That's another part of the stories my mushroom told me. Now remember, my mushroom never went to school, never read. He didn't even know how to read or write. But he has all these stories about these big giant things. Later in life, they dig in the ground and they find these skeletons of these big giant lizards. We still have those stories. So me, I believe my stories more than I believe the books out there. That's just the way I am. That's the way I was raised. Now, a little bit of a comedic story coming in here right now. After he made all the animals, Masakachak got up and he went for a walk. Now, this story we teach our little kids for a reason. You got to get to it and listen to it. So this one morning, Masakachak got up and he went for a walk on his trail. And back then, his body parts could talk to him back and forth. So he was walking and his stomach started talking to him. Masakachak, I'm hungry. He kept walking. Hey, Masakachak, I'm hungry. He told his stomach, shut up. He told him. Kept walking, but his stomach kept really just kept going at it to the point God was Sakachak just mad. So he walked into the bush and started eating berries. He ate all kinds of berries, sweet, sour, whatever. Even the berries you're not supposed to eat, he ate them because he was just trying to fill his stomach. He saw a little mouse walking by. He got that mouse. He ate the mouse too. He drank some water from the river. Kept walking. Kept walking until his stomach was full. It's quiet. It's good. Kept walking. Now, in time, his butt started talking to him slowly at first, quietly. Hey, Masakachak, why'd you eat that? Told his butt, shut up. Kept walking his butt. Hey, why'd you eat that? Well, be quiet, he told him. And then his butt started yelling, I hate you. Now, today, if we walk around and our butt's talking, you hear this. So he's walking and his butt really giving it to him. Oh, his Sakachak's getting mad now. So he walked into the bush and got a piece of willow, stripped off, except for the little edge. He left that where all the spikes and stuff on. He left that. Every time his butt talked, he whipped his butt up and down his back of his legs to his back, both sides, up and down, to the point that his butt realized, oh, I better be quiet. It's starting to hurt now. See, he's whipped up all really rough. So bad he couldn't sit down, couldn't lay down. So he just kept walking on that trail slowly. It really hurts. He's walking kind of slow, but he's walking. And then he started getting hungry again. But then he didn't want to go through all that problem he did with the berries and all the whipping and all that. He just kept walking. He saw something on the trail and he walked up and grabbed it and picked it up. Long piece of dry meat, kind of looked like bacon. He smelt it. He tasted it. It didn't taste that bad, so he ate it. Kept walking. Found another piece and another piece and another. Oh, putting them in his bag. And so many, he's just collecting. Oh, really good. Someone's looking after him. And all of a sudden, his stomach, he's, oh, there's business one and business two. Business two wanted out real quick, real urgent. So even back then, you still had to do it privately. So he was looking for a little spot in a bush so he can go do his business. And he saw a spot. So as he was walking into the bush, there was a branch, caught something on the side of his leg. And he yelled, it hurt. So he went down and he felt his leg and something was sticking off his leg. And every time he pulled on it, it hurt. Ooh, and he pulled it off. But he held on to it. And then he brought it up and he looked at it. There was a long piece of dry meat, about yay long. He looked at it. He looked in his bag. He looked at it, looked in his bag, and the story stops with him saying, oh no. And that's where the story stops. Now remember, we tell this to our little kids a long time ago in teepee times. We just tell that story to them for a reason. When a kid falls down, scrapes their arm or their knee, they're bleeding, so they clean it off, and something grows over top of it. Like a little kid, they pick and they pick and they pick, and it pulls off, and they grab it and they pull 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 it off. 9 times out of 10, they bring it up, they look around and they smell it. They go, Mom says, what are you doing? They take it and they eat it. Now, the story title of that song, or I should say that story, to the Ojibwe people is Nanabush eating dried meat. But the Crees, we don't hold back. This is Wasakachuk eating his scabs. Now, yes, it's a gross story. Yes, some of you probably chuckle, you know, the farty noises and all that kind of stuff. When I tell that to little kids, boy, they really lose their minds. Now, I also say that to older people because they're just like little kids. They lose their minds too. So it is a funny story. Now, the reason why we tell those stories is because 1, you laughed, you liked it. 2, you're never going to forget it because 1, it's kind of gross. And because we use our humor, we always use our humor with everything because that's one thing we never gave up. You see, as First Nations people, we lost a lot of stuff. Lost our language, lost our land, lost our culture. Some people lost everything else, but they never lost their sense of humor because somewhere in one of your families, you'll have an auntie or an uncle or a grandpa or a grandma who's known as the relentless teaser and will tease the living crap out of you. And if you cry, they'll tease you even some more because then they'll call you crybaby. And you'll always be known as that. That's how it works. So after all the animals were done, Wasakachuk thought his job was all finished. And he went for a walk to the highest hill and yelled at the creator. And he asked the creator, I'm done my jobs. I want to go home. He said, remember, he's made out of star matter. If he was standing right beside me, you just see me completely black with millions of little white dots like stars sparkling. And when I open my eyes, you'll see sunlight. When I open my mouth, you'll see sunlight come out. That's what they always say Wasakachuk looked like. So creator told him, no, he said, you got to make one more. You got to make people. Oh, he said, what's a people? He said, well, he said, kind of looks like you, kind of looks like me, but different. Oh, he said. So Wasakachuk was kind of mad. So he went on his trail and went for a walk. And he found his mud hole. It was dried up. Oh, even made him even more angry. So he sang a song, waited for water to come, and rain poured on. Wasn't enough, so he went to the river and bailed some more water in there and took off his moccasins and he was mixing mud. Getting all soft, really mixing. He's talking to himself, yelling at himself, arguing with himself. He made so much noise that just a little ways around the bush, in the bush over there, a family of bears woke up. And they're really, really getting mad over it. They were having a good sleep. They're hibernating. Him and his wife, they're sleeping. First Papa Bear came out. He's looking around, walked to the edge of the bush. He looked through the bush. He saw Wasakachuk in the mud hole mixing mud. So he stood up on, walking on his hinds and walked over. If I was in front of you, I'd make it look like I walked like a bear. So I walked right up to the edge of there and he looks in the mud hole and says, hey, Wasakachuk, what are you doing? He says, hi, Bear. He says, I have to make people. Bear looked at him. What's a people? He said, Creator told me, kind of looks like me, kind of looks like Him, he said, but different. But at that point in time, he looked up at Bear, and the sun was behind Bear, so he saw the outline of the head, shoulders, arms, chest, man part, legs, and feet. Huh, he said. So in the mud, we put a head, shoulders, arms, chest, man parts, legs, and feet. Blew life into him. Put him down on the ground, and the first man stood there like a toddler. He was kind of weaving back and forth, trying to learn trying to walk, and he fell over and he started crawling on all fours and grabbed Bear's leg, and Bear kicked him. Get out of here, he said. Leave me alone, don't touch me. The little guy was walking around, eating grass, trying to eat rocks. He was hungry. Bear kind of laughed at him, and Sakacha, don't laugh at him. He said, he doesn't know any better. So he made different ones, taller, shorter, fatter, hundreds of them. Blue lights. All these men were running around, naked, bare naked, no clothing. Now, Mama Bear had enough of all the noise because these things were growling and talking to each other, or trying to. So she walked to the edge of the trees. She pulled the tree back, looked down. She saw Bear, the Sakacha, and all these other little things running around. Oh, she's kind of didn't like it too much, but she stood up on her hind legs, and her too, she walked over, and these little men were trying to grab her legs. And, oh, get away. She's smacking them. She stood beside Bear and looked at Wasakachuk, and she said, what are those? She said. And Bear said, those are people. No, don't give me people. She said, they got your part. She said, where's my parts? So Wasakachuk looked her up and down. Got an idea. Head, shoulders, lady parts, legs, blew life into her. And the first woman came alive. As soon as he put her down on the ground, her little hand came up, and she started really giving it to Wasakachuk, really giving it to him. Oh, Wasakachuk, calm down. And he pushed her on her way and made more. As many as men, he did women, male and female, blew life into them. They came alive. He taught them how to eat, how to get along, what kind of houses to make. But they were very needy people that always ran into Wasakachuk with a problem. And he was getting angry over it. So, in his anger, he said, okay, fine, I'll help you. He said, so he made us helpers, little people. There's us, small little people, same as us, male and female. We could see them, they could see us. But their job was to help us find food, help us keep our houses clean, chase away the vermin, that kind of stuff. That was their job. But we needed a protector. So you had little people, our helpers, us, and then really big, tall, hairy, had big feet. We called them Big Brother. They helped us. They protected us. They policed us. If two men were fighting, they'd come up and grab you by the scruff of your neck, pick you up, shake you, tell you, knock it off, don't fight, be good, put you down on the ground, tap it on the head, be good. That was their job. So that's what they did. In time, the humans didn't like the little people anymore. They kick them, get out of here, we don't need your help no more. They just stopped listening to Big Brother. No, we don't need you anymore, leave us alone. Now, made all the little people mad, made Big Brother mad. So they too went to go see Wasakachuk. Really just giving Wasakachuk all the problems that they ran into. And Wasakachuk, well, what do you want me to do? He said, you want me to just get rid of you? But you guys have a job to do. You do your job. Well, we can't do our job. They see us. Oh, so you want to keep doing your job, but you don't want to be seen. Yeah, that would work. Okay, then. He snapped his finger. You don't see them anymore. They won't see you. You're completely invisible. So you do your jobs, he said, but they just don't see you. But I'm going to give you a little thing, he said. In case you need to, get a hold of them or tell them straight, he said, I'll give you the ability of showing yourself. You can show yourself to them. Only in times of need, emergency, whatever else, or importance. So that's what they did. So now all the little people are with their people, looking after their humans. Big Brother watched them. Only in need, he'd show himself. So, in time, the human beings didn't even want to do anything with Wasakachuk anymore. They said, we don't want you no more. Wasakachuk kind of got mad, went back to his hill and asked the creator, he said, these people don't even want to listen to me anymore. Geez, what am I supposed to do? He said, I'm tired. I want to go home. Okay. One more job. Then it's done. You're done then. All right, what's my job? He said, get all the people and take them all into the big open pasture over there. That open field. He said, get them there tomorrow morning as the sun comes up. He said, then we'll do that job. Okay, what job? You'll find out. I'll tell you. So the next morning, he gathered all the human beings in that area, and all of a sudden, out of the ground, a big wall came up. Then he had them all, police line up, hands against the wall, pat down. From all the little babies to the old Muslims and Nukums and Kokums, all of them, all land up there. Wasakachak tucked on their backs. He touched them on their shoulders as he walked by, creating the 4 great nations of earth. Created the white nation, the black nation, the yellow nation, and the red nation people. We're the red nation people. So, on this drum here, all the smartest ones from all the different nations all gathered in a circle in the middle. And they made an altar. And they made houses and circles right here. And that's where all the smartest ones of each group all got together. Now, all the other white nation here, black nation, yellow nation, red nation, they refused to talk back and forth or even help with each other. And they warred against all of each other. And that's what the creator got mad at. But these smartest ones are in perfect harmony. They got along, no problem. Creator got mad at everybody. He dove his hands into the earth and carved around this nation, that nation. He pulled the land apart. Remember, it's circled with water. So as he pulled that land apart, the water rushed in, creating what the globe used to look like to what it looks like today. Now, first land right here, the first turtle island. If you think about it scientifically, they call it Pangea. That's something else I read about as a kid. So all this stuff makes sense because now, remember, I told you, everybody has a little person. Everybody has a big brother. Now, after I graduated high school, I went on a powwow trail. And then I was hired to go on a dance troupe, and we traveled all through the world, big world tour. I went dancing, that kind of stuff. And I visited all over the world. And whenever I run into old people or indigenous people, I talk with them. Get their stories, and I share my stories with them. They share their stories with me. And we're in England, and England has these stories about the little people. They're called the littles or the borrowers. Go to Ireland, they're known as the leprechauns. Now you go to Australia, we're down there, and the Yahweh and Yiyu. Yiyu's little and Yahweh's big brother. Yahweh's a big wild man. Hairy, tall, head, big feet. Only shows up when danger is around or something bad is happening. He shows up. Go through Asia, many, many nature little people. Only one name for big brother. They call him the Yeti. Lives in the mountains. Big, tall, hairy, has big feet. Go to North America, Jim Diddles, Yahweh, whatever you want to call them. Little people. They are still around. They are still in your houses. Prove it. Late at night, or at nighttime, you're reading a book or watching TV, a little movement, corner of your eye moves. That's them. Or if there's something shiny and you put it on your table, like say a bunch of coins or a ring, you take your ring off and you put it on the coffee table and it goes away. It's missing, and you're searching through the whole entire house, and then you come back and it's sitting there again. You see, they just borrowed it, looked at it, and put it back. They love shiny things. Now, my aunt, my mom's youngest sister, married a gentleman from what was there? It was Enoch First Nation, just outside of Edmonton. And her mother-in-law, her husband's mom, had all her spoons missing in her house. All her teaspoons always go missing. It's like they buy her a new set each year, and they disappear. Finally, she had enough, and she had a medicine man come into her house to see what the heck is going on with her house. She thought it was evil spirits and all that, and he came in. He did his ceremony. He did all that, and he laughed at her. And he said, "No," he said, "you have a little person in your house." He said, "He feels all the spoons are his. So he takes them all and he hides them somewhere in the basement." He said, "If you want them, you can go looking for them. But I suggest not." He said, just take a spoon." He said, "tie a ribbon on it and, publicly out loud say, 'This is for you,' and put it on the table." He said, "Just give it to him. Then he'll leave the rest of your spoons alone." Of course, the grandma didn't listen. So she had my aunt and her other daughter-in-laws that chase and, tear the basement apart. And my aunt was messing around by the staircase, and there was a loose board. She pulled the board out. It was like a plug to a long little cubby hole. Put the flashlight in there, and all the spoons are stacked up all through there. So of course my aunt's pulling them out. For 4 days after, they had a very angry little man yelling and yelling and yelling and singing and mournful songs, all kinds of stuff like that, to the point where that grandma had to call that medicine man in again to visit. He came in, he said sorry for what she did. He took all those spoons and he put them all back in there. And he plugged that hole up with that board. "Now leave it alone." He said, "Do what I tell you." He said, "Take one spoon." He tied a ribbon on it. He said, "You say it, this is for you. put it there. And she did all that. And now she has spoons in her cupboard. But she keeps giving him a spoon each year. Each spring, she gives him one so that he'll be happy. You know, these are our beliefs. These are all the stories of my family, the Nahils. And there's a lot of stories that go in it. There's thousands of other stories. But I'm also dealing with time. And there's other things I'd like to do for you. So that kind of incorporates the traditional storytelling of it. Now, there's other ways of telling stories, and that's through song. Now, this drum right here, the very, very old drum. Now, this drum right here, he's 7 generations. I'm the 7th generation to have this hand drum. Doesn't really strum all that well anymore, but the hide itself is from the original drum. The rim was changed in 1965 in Winnipeg when my grandparents lived in Winnipeg, and they sewed the hide to the frame. Keep changing the handles each year. So each year I take them out and I wash them off and kind of soak them up and then hang them on the wall, let them dry out so that he stays nice and firm and sounds nice. Now, age-wise, I asked my mushroom how old the drum is, and my mushroom put it, he said, well, he said, probably about 500, maybe 600 years old or older. That's how old this drum is. And he still sounds pretty close to how they're supposed to. So song, singing, straight songs. But the first song I ever sung was a love song. And that love song is inside your chest. You can feel it. You can put your hand over your chest and just listen for it. It's in there. It's in there. You feel it. Feel it in your fingertips. Should sound something like this. Now, if it goes this slow, means you're sick, get to the hospital. And when you're older and you hear this, see that right person and you look at each other and you smile and your heart races. That means you're in love. That's how it goes. Now, Dakota style singing love songs is just a straight beat. Sounds like this. Hey, 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 ho, ha, ha. Hey, ho, hey, ha, hey, hi, hey, ho, hey, hi, hey, ho, ya, he, ha, hey, 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 ho, ya, he, ho, ha. Hey, hey, yo, hey, hi, ho, ha. Hey, hi, hey, yo, hey, hi, hey, yo, ya, he, ha. Hey, hey, So that's Dakota style, singing round that, straightforward. But then there's this different style of drumming. The Nahil people used to do this for thousands of years. It sounded like this. And then that style of drumming disappeared in the early 1900s because all our children were taken away, sent off to those concentration camps, otherwise known as residential schools, where it stopped. And for many, many, many years, no one drummed like that, except for the odd few, the ones that were hidden, the ones that hid from being told to go to schools and stuff like that. Now, my mushroom had this cousin of his, the famous artist. This one morning, I was waking up at my cook mushroom's house, and I just got back from hunting, and there was a knock at the door. I opened the door, and there stood the biggest, tallest Indian cowboy I ever saw, dressed in complete black. Black cowboy boots, black jeans, black shirt, black coat, black cowboy hat. Come walking in and told me, good morning. I said, morning. I told him, come on in. I said, is my cousin up? I said, no, he's still in bed. I said, so he sat at the table. And, tell him his cousin's here. I said, okay, I will. I said, knocked on my mushroom's door. And, mushroom, I said, your cousin's here. I said, he's come to visit. Huh? I said, I'll be out in a minute. He said, okay, give him some tea. I said, okay, so I fixed him some tea and asked him, what do you want in your tea? Oh, just straight black. He looked at it, looked at the tea, looked at it. Ah, that's good stuff. He said, what do you mean good stuff? He said, oh, he said, when it has that little oil patch on the top, he said, it's real strong, good tea. Good cookum tea. That's what he told me. So that his cousin visited all day. And he was, gave my mushroom a painting and it painted his name on it, the whole 9 yards. And mushroom looked, that was real nice. He said, it's a powwow picture, big Indians and little small Indians. Hung that on the wall. Now he stayed for breakfast, he stayed for dinner, stayed for supper. Then after supper, he told him, hey, little man, come here. He said, Sussum, as they call me, little mushroom. And I walked, yeah. Can you? He said, can you get one of those drums off the wall for me? I said, okay. So I grabbed the drum I showed you and got another little drum I had. I'm going to teach you something. Within about 10 minutes, I learned how to use that style of drumming. You're strumming it with your finger in the back. Can't really show it all that well back here, but the fingers are stopping the strum of the drum, that vibration. So then he taught me a song, and this is that song he taught me. So this is it. That's round dancing. Now, my mushroom's cousin is a very famous artist, and his name was Alan Sapp. You see, I met Alan Sapp when I was just a little guy, a little small guy. And one thing I always tell that about my mushroom there, Mushroom Alan, is that he never spoke hardly any English. Well, let's say about 50 words. And he was a very quiet, very humble man. I mean, extreme humble. Like if he saw someone that didn't have a shirt or a jacket, that he'd take his own off and give it to him. And that's the kind of human being he was. And he showed nothing but love to everybody, even though he was put through hell as a kid. Now, when I say that, now he was raised by his cookum and mushroom, the same as I. That's how the two of us got along. He used to tell me, I was raised by my cookum and mushroom too, he'd say. So he said that, and I just laughed. I mean, I chuckled with him because I didn't have to live in a basement. You see, they used to lift open the underground, dig out the cellar, the fruit cellar. You used to go down there, a little table, a little chair, a little small lantern, or a candle. By candlelight, that's how he stayed lit, and that's why he was half blind when he came out. He strained his eyes as a kid. And if you ever notice any of his paintings, it's always him looking out a window because he was always in fear of being caught by the RCMP to be taken off to school. So that's what they did. That's how they hit him. One more thing, music. A long time ago, they had a thing called courting. That's when a boy or a girl hit that certain age and boy saw a girl, boy smiled at a girl, girl smiled back. You couldn't just go up there and say, hey, let's go get a Pepsi, let's go get a Slurpee. There was protocols. If a boy liked a girl, he'd have to talk to his mom. Mom got involved. Mom would say, what girl you like? I like that girl. No, I like that girl. Okay, mom knew which girl it was. Now mom had to go talk to her mom. Cookum or Nookum is now involved. No, the Cookums would talk to that girl's Cookum. If it was agreed, then that Cookum would talk to her daughter, and then that mom would talk to the girl. And if it was agreed upon, they'd meet in a certain area of the camp where they have one chair, two chairs, one for the girl, one for the boy, and a whole bunch of chairs for all their aunties, moms, and Cookums. They sit there and watch. And then the courting would start. So they'd use the Indian flute. So this is the Indian flute. This is actually a drone flute. So I'm going to play one side then the other. And these are the songs that were played. This is the drone. So that's the higher flute. And I have a grandfather flute here. I always throw that joke in there. The bigger they are, the lower in sound. So that's how it works. This is the grandfather flute. He's a drone. So that's the flutes. That's basically storytelling. This is what I usually do all the time. I usually do it a little bit more time, hour and a half. I can fill 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. As long as you can sit there and talk and I can talk, I'll talk. And I'll tell stories and I'll share all kinds of stories. We have stories that are comedic. We have stories that tell teachings. We have stories that make you laugh. We have stories that make you cry. And if we're around a campfire late at night out in the middle of nowhere, we got stories that scare the living hell out of you. So that's the kind of stories that we tell. So other than that, if you all got any kinds of questions, this is the time to ask questions. I am a person that's been through almost every kind of ceremony there is. I have no hang-ups at all. I'll share just about everything. There's a few things I won't do. I won't sing any of our Sundance songs or anything like that. On an individual basis, yes, but to a large group, no, because it's a spiritual song. They're sung for specific reasons why we sing them. It's like even our round dances. A lot of people don't realize that a round dance is actually a ceremony. It's a round dance in which we dance with our own spiritual people that have passed on. So when we do it, we start with a feast. Then we open one door, we sing a certain song, and then the spirits come in. And then they share with us, they dance with us throughout the night. So as you're doing round dancing, there's always a door open. Every once in a while, there's a breeze that comes through and then it leaves. Some of us just say, oh, it's just wind coming in through the door. But the spiritual side of it, and us that believe in it, says one of our loved ones have come in and said hello or said goodbye, came in and spent some time with us, and then they left. That's what our ceremonies are about. And then at the end of the round dance, we sing a certain song and then we close the door. And then it's all done. Then we open the door and we leave and go home. You see, that's the basis of it. Everything that we have, there's a reason for it. Every spiritual, there's a spirituality to almost everything that we do. Like even those stories I told you, this is the basis of our spirituality. When Wasakachuk danced for those 4 days and created land, that's the basis of our traditional thirst dances, the rain dance, the sun dance. Those for 4 days we dance and we refrain from drinking and eating and we pray so that life will continue. That's why we do what we do. And the thing is, all the other nations, because we created the 4 great nations, they all came from the first people that Wasakachuk made. And then they created the 4 great nations. And then they broke the land apart and they all went. So somewhere way back there, somewhere they lost their stories, they lost their beliefs. Now, if you go around the world today, there are traditional people from all 4 nations. There are what we call indigenous people. They're the ones that held on to their teachings. While I was in down under, we're in Australia just after graduation, and I talked with some of the spiritual people, the people from the outback, the Aborigine people, and they have the belief in the little people. They have a belief in the big people. They were told how to pray, how to use a pipe, the whole 9 years. They all have that. Even the white nation people. There is a group of white Indians in Europe. After high school, I was dancing out there at that dance troupe. We came across some people in Finland. They're known as the Sami people. And we went to visit them. They're also known as the reindeer people. And that's where Santa Claus comes into play because he came from their people, the reindeer people. And they too invited us over there to have socials. And they'd sing with the round dance drums. They sing their songs similar to us. The ladies have their songs. The men have their songs. They have ceremonials. They have everything. Even some of their songs are very, very close to our own traditional songs. The air, the how they say, the melody of the song. The words are different, but the melody of those traditional sacred songs are pretty well the same. Now, I remember back in '98 watching the Nagano games when they were putting up those 4 big posts, and there's the one monk singing. Well, that air of that song is very similar to the song that we sing for our sun dances to bring up and raise the pole. So, what does that say? That means that at one point we were all the same people. We just moved, came from different areas, have different beliefs, but the basis is still there. So with that, I'd like to say thank you to everybody. If you have questions, please Ask away.
So if anybody would like to ask questions, you can do so in chat, or you can raise your hand and you can ask, and we will open up the floor. We're getting a lot of appreciation in the chat.
Yeah, I have to
Lots
figure
of
out how to get into the chat.
lots of thank you for sharing.
Yeah, lots of thank you for sharing. Yeah.
I enjoyed your stories.
I
Okay,
don't
so
have a question, but I do have something to say, and that is to you, Dickie, my friend. It's Rosemary from Moose Jaw. How are you?
I'm doing good, Rose.
Thank you so much for doing this. It was so nice to hear your stories again and hear your songs and your drums and your flutes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I see Stacy Fleury, you have your hand up. Do you want to ask a question?
Yeah. So you were talking about the significance of like round dances, and I was wondering, if you could explain like about the sweat lodges, because I've been having dreams and stuff about going to sweat lodges, and I think I went to one when I was 5 once, but yeah,
Okay.
I'm not sure what it means. So
All
I
right.
was,
Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Lashburn, Saskatchewan right now, but
Okay.
I'm from Moosomin First Nation.
Muslim First Nation. Okay. Yeah, you have a lot of elders back home. Mostly, the best way of doing it is go back to your home territory, and go through your family lineage and find a helper that way. And that makes it a lot easier if you're a part of their peoples. And from there, they'll initiate you into it. Now, the reason why we have the sweat lodge is that one time it was only for men. Now, that's how it was explained to me, because a woman, you have your cycle, your moon cycle is with you all the time, so your body always cleanses itself. Now, men, we don't have that. That's why they made that ceremony where we crawl back into our mother, get cleansed, and then we crawl out of our mother at the end. That's representing going back into the womb of Mother Earth, and then you're reborn to come out. Now, not necessarily saying that's what it was, but then it was changed, and women were involved into it, and it was more powerful when they brought in the men and the women. As long as the woman wasn't on her moon time, she was allowed into it. And the power that comes out of it is, how would I say, unexplainable. I've seen things with my own eyes that has happened, like people come in sickly and they leave and the sickness is gone. Meaning, even up to the people that some people even had cancer that actually left them and left. Now, that to have that happen, you have to have everybody with positive thoughts, all the power in there, and then the person who is sick has to believe in what's happening in order for it to work. Now, that is something that, like I said, I cannot explain why or how, but it's real power and it's real. And like I said, if you can get back into it, that'd be great. But it's up to your own to find out the right person to do that. So, like I said, start at home first, where you're home from, your home reserve, home territory. If you have a relative, even better. If not, then you'll have to move on to a different area and seek help that way. I can't explain how to do it, but best way is you give tobacco, explain what you need and want, and it starts from there.
Okay, thank you so much, Dickie.
Yeah. Any other questions?
So I'm just looking at chat. One question is anyone writing these oral traditions down now?
No. Now, there is a reason why I say no, is because I was there on my grandfather's deathbed. He died right beside me. And he told me, under no circumstances am I to take my stories or his stories and write them down, because they were meant to be orally passed on from generation down. Now, I'm pretty adamant about that, just because that's the way I was raised. And he's the one that gave me all the teachings. He's the one that gave me the bundle. I look after his chanupas, his pipes, his pagans, all his sacred rattles, all the medicines that come with it in the teachings. So I hold his bundle and I believe it to a T. So that's why I don't and will never write this down. Some of my relatives want me to write it down because they're too, how would I say, busy to sit down, shut up, and listen to the stories the way they were told the right way. And that's where it stops. That's why I share stories with just about everybody. That way my stories are out there and the tradition doesn't die. It stays alive.
Right. How can we follow you to hear more stories?
Well, I do a podcast on Hoksheda. It's wherever you do podcasts, it's called Hoksheda. Hoksheda. And it's called Hoksheda Podcast. And I tell the story of my reckoning with reconciliation and being a residential school survivor and survivor of all the things that came because of it. So yeah, we have a lot of intergeneration traumas as well as abuses of all kinds. So I lived through just about everything and anything that was handed out. So it's just my own personal way of healing through it. That's why I do the podcast. Other than that, there's different storytelling sessions throughout Saskatchewan this month that I'm a part of. You just look on the library's website, and there's a whole bunch of different festivals I'm doing here in Regina as well.
There are a few questions about your flute playing.
Yes. What about my flute playing?
Is your flute talent natural or were you taught?
Natural. It came with listening to my mushroom play his. Actually, I have his. I just got to go grab it. Just 1 second here. I forgot to grab it out this morning, but this flute is a lot older than what it looks like. Now, I was given the flute and the hand drum at the same time. So the flute was actually carved around the same time that the original drum was put together. And this is what it sounds like. Oh, come on. Doesn't want to stay in place. Its ties move the fetish. Let's see if that works there. Well, it usually works, but like I said, the ties are acting up. There. Hopefully that works there. So every night my mushroom would actually take this flute out and he would play love songs to my cookum. Now, I'd hear that all the time as a little kid. And for the longest time, my mushroom would never let me use it because he'd say, your fingers are too small. When they get bigger, you'll learn. So when I was about 10 years old, we carved a flute together, which fit my little fingers at the time. Then they got big fat fingers. So that's how it started. And from there, it's just natural playing the flute. I mean, these flutes don't match the regular music. How they say the scales? They're a little different. Like they're not based on 8 notes; these are based on 7 notes. So we're missing one. So somewhere in there, we have to kind of flick our finger on there to make it kind of match back and forth. But that's the gist of playing a Native American flute. So, like I said, that is the old one, and then there's the ones I bought. Now, these here are traditional. They come from the Navajo people, and they were actually stolen from the Navajo people and put in the Smithsonian Museum in Washington. And then there was this famous wood carver from Europe that came over and was friends with the guy who owned the Smithsonian. So they broke it open, and he took 2 flutes home back to wherever he was from in Europe, and they broke it apart and then recreated them, and then they're selling them for thousands and thousands of dollars. Like this one right here, this is in the key of A. It is about $1,500 to $2,000 American, and then the bigger flutes just cost more. Like this one right here, this is in the range of $2,500 to $4,000 American to have these, and that's through the company known as High Spirits Company.
Wow, I would have never guessed that you were naturally talented. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's same as singing. I mean, I can listen to any drum group around, and I'm not bragging or anything, but you just sit and listen, and you'll catch the air. And if you listen to the words, you'll catch the words. If you understand the words, great. Otherwise, most of our Native American languages are phonetically spoken, so you can just listen to it, and then you'll be able to speak the words. But you'll have to talk to someone to figure out what the words mean. But I mean, in time, you learn that way. It's like traditionally I speak Cree and then Ojibwe as well as Dakota. And then I picked up Nakota and Lakota and a whole bunch of other ones from the States because I traveled all over the world dancing powwow. So through North America, we traveled all through. So a lot of the Southern languages, I picked up a lot of languages. I don't speak them all, but enough to get by. We'll put it that way.
Well, I'll do two last questions. There's just a couple minutes left. May I ask the name of the creator? I want to know more about him.
Okay. A lot of the Nahil people call him Kichi Manitou. Kichi Manitou. Manitou spirit. Kichi is the great one. Now, the reason why they call him that is because there's no other way. Now, if you're speaking in Dakota, we call Ontangashla. Ontangashla is a great grandfather, but they also call Ontagashala. When they say it in a different way, it's like a mystery. You're asking for the great mystery to listen to you because we don't know if it's male or female or both, because at times the creator can be very loving and at times the creator is very strict. So it's both a dad and a mom kind of spirit feeling. So that's why they always call Ontagashla to the Cree or to the Dakota, and to the Cree's Kichi Manitou. We call him the great spirit, is in the one major spirit, the one that's in charge. That's the one we pray to.
Okay, we've heard of a medicine wheel being discovered near Doddsland, Sask a few years ago, but don't hear about this being investigated lately. Do you know any more about the history of this?
Just word of mouth of who did this and who did that and who was involved. But there are several of them out there in Saskatchewan. There's one just west of Moose Jaw. There's one Dodson. There's one would be north of Regina, close to the lakes. There's one on the north side of the lake there. We do have one out in Fall Hills, Indian reservations, but there is a small one out there. And there's another big one south of Moose Jaw, way out in the hills, closer to Assiniboia. There's one out there. So we do have them all over the place, as well as Rock Pierce. There's one there, not only just the carving of it, but there's actually, it's more of a pointing. There's from Rock Pierce, there's stones on the far west side, east side, south side, and north side. So that thing itself is also considered a prayer site. Now, one of my great grandfathers, Chief Sinibul, actually came up and he used Rock Pierce as a holy site. Long before the settlers came here, they were using that site as a place of prayer and sacrifice. So like a Sundance per se, they use that area as well. Now, if you go walk down there and look at it, it's all covered in graffiti. But if you go within it and actually look, there is actually carvings that the Dakotas actually put on site. So it is, for us, it is a holy site. So yeah, there's many different sites throughout Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and I should say, most of Western Canada, that there are a lot of what we call medicine wheels. And that's a place where they did offerings and prayers. And it all lines up with the summer solstice and winter solstice as well.
Well, I think we're about coming to time today.
Okay.
I'd just like to thank Dickie so much for his contributions. It's been such a pleasure coming to know you through this event. And my life has been really enriched by hearing your stories today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We also wanted to note two things. Dickie will be getting a gift, which my colleague Paniota has arranged. And also for everyone who's attended, we're going to be doing a door prize draw. Winners will be randomly selected. You'll get an email from the library. And in the email, there will be a list of books by local Indigenous authors. And you can select a book that you'd like to have, and we will gift it to you for attending today's event. Also, please join us later this week on Thursday, February 3rd at 1 p.m. for our next online event with Court Danier. And yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dickie.
You're welcome.
See lots of muted people clapping.
Yeah. And a lot of thank yous.
A lot of thank yous in the chat. Okay, so with that, well, maybe I'll give it a few more seconds as people continue to type into the chat.
Yeah.
And then I will close this out.
All right.
Okay, thanks for your time, everyone. And thank you, Dickie.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Dickie.
We have everybody have a nice day. I will be ending this meeting in 3, 2, 1.